If you thought this family had already seen its worst days, wait until you hear what happens next, because today's episode turns a quiet family secret into an explosion nobody saw coming, and by the end of it you will understand exactly why Zwelakhe finally snapped. For weeks now, this household has been sitting on a truth that everybody could feel but nobody wanted to say out loud. Zwelakhe has spent his whole life believing he was a Mackay's, carrying the surname with pride, standing beside his so-called brothers as one of them, only for that entire foundation to start cracking the moment whispers began circulating that the man he calls father might not be his father at all. And the most painful part of this whole situation is that his own mother, the one person who should have told him the truth years ago, chose silence instead. She watched her son grow up believing a lie, and now that the lie is unraveling in front of everyone, Zwelakhe is left standing there asking himself the one question no child should ever have to ask: was my entire life a performance? Was every birthday, every family gathering, every moment I thought I belonged, actually built on a foundation that was never real? You can imagine how a young man carries that kind of weight. It is not just embarrassment, it is not just confusion, it is a complete identity crisis. Everything he thought he knew about himself, his surname, his ancestry, his place in this family, is suddenly up for debate, and the one person who could have spared him this pain decided instead to let him find out the hard way. So when we say Zwelakhe is furious, understand that furious does not even begin to cover it. This is a man who feels betrayed at the deepest level a person can feel betrayed, and today, that fury finally boils over. Before we get into the explosion everyone has been waiting for, let's rewind slightly so you understand exactly how we got here, because the road to this confrontation has been long and messy. The suspicion started building when people close to the family began noticing that the man everyone assumed was Zwelakhe's biological father had never once, in any private or public setting, referred to him the way a father refers to his own blood son. Small comments here and there, a distance that never quite made sense for two people who were supposedly father and son, all of it started adding up. And the deeper people looked, the more it became obvious that there is a very real possibility Zwelakhe shares blood with a completely different man, someone connected to the family through an entirely different route, someone whose own history with Zwelakhe's mother goes back much further than anyone previously admitted. This is where things get complicated, because if that theory is true, it means the woman at the center of this story has been carrying an enormous secret for years, one that ties her romantically or historically to this other man long before her son was even born. And once that possibility entered the picture, everything else started making sense. Why certain relatives treated Zwelakhe with a strange kind of caution. Why the topic of his birth always seemed to shut conversations down the moment it came up. Why his own instincts, the ones he trusted enough to eventually consult a traditional healer about, kept pointing him toward the same unsettling conclusion, that the ancestors he has been praying to under one surname may not actually be his ancestors at all. That visit to the healer is honestly one of the most heartbreaking parts of this whole storyline, because you have a grown man going to seek spiritual guidance, expecting reassurance, and instead walking away with confirmation that his own bloodline is calling out to him from somewhere else entirely. Imagine sitting there, hearing that your ancestors do not recognize the surname you have worn your entire life. That is not a small thing to hear. That is the kind of message that can break a person, and it clearly broke something in Zwelakhe, because from that point forward he stopped pretending everything was fine. He confronted his mother, not once, but repeatedly, each time hoping she would finally give him a straight answer, and each time being met with deflection, avoidance, or a version of the truth so incomplete it only made things worse. At one point she even tried the classic move of turning the blame back onto him, accusing him of digging where he had no business digging, telling him to stay out of matters that were apparently not his to question, which is honestly one of the most frustrating responses a mother could give in this situation. This is not some random family gossip Zwelakhe was chasing. This is his own life, his own identity, his own bloodline, and being told to mind his own business about who his real father is would push anyone over the edge. Eventually, tired of getting nowhere through conversation, Zwelakhe decided to take matters into his own hands. He arranged a DNA test, quietly, involving the people he had grown up calling his siblings, determined to finally get an answer that nobody could talk their way around. And when those results came back, they confirmed exactly what his instincts, his ancestors, and the whispers around him had been telling him all along: he does not share blood with the men he has called his brothers his entire life. The man raising him is not his biological father. Everything he built his identity around for years has just been proven, scientifically, undeniably, to be a lie. Now picture the atmosphere in that house the moment those results become impossible to deny. This is not a quiet, dignified revelation delivered with tea and soft music in the background. This is raw, unfiltered devastation crashing into a household that has already been unstable for weeks. And it is in this exact moment, with all of that pain sitting on the surface, that the real fireworks begin, because Zwelakhe does not process this quietly. He confronts the brother he grew up beside, the one who has treated him with a certain coldness throughout all of this, the one who has never quite defended him the way a real brother should, and something in Zwelakhe finally snaps completely. Words turn into shouting, shouting turns into shoving, and before anyone in the house can step in to calm things down, what started as a painful family disagreement has turned physical. Zwelakhe, a man who has spent this entire storyline trying to hold himself together with promises and patience, finally loses that composure entirely and goes after his brother in a way nobody expected from him. It is ugly, it is loud, and it is exactly the kind of moment that shows just how much pressure had been building underneath the surface this whole time. This was never just about a DNA test. This was about years of feeling like an outsider in his own home, about a mother who wouldn't tell the truth, about a father figure who never once treated him like blood, and about a brother who, instead of standing beside him during the hardest weeks of his life, chose to keep his distance. The rest of the family scrambles to separate them, voices overlapping, someone trying to physically pull Zwelakhe back while others attempt to shield his brother from further blows, and in the chaos you can see just how badly this family has needed an intervention long before today. This is not a household that communicates. This is a household that buries its problems until they explode, and today, they exploded in the most public, most physical way possible. What makes this whole situation even more tangled is that this is not the only fire burning in this family right now. While Zwelakhe has been unraveling his own parentage, another young man in the family, someone we will refer to simply as the son caught in his own web of suspicion, has been going through a parallel storyline involving hidden documents and a father who seems to be keeping secrets of an entirely different nature. This young man, frustrated by feeling like he is constantly being kept in the dark about decisions affecting his own future, decided to go snooping through his father's belongings looking for answers, only to nearly get caught in the act. He managed to hide what he found just in time, stuffing documents behind his back the moment footsteps approached, leaving the room in a hurried mess as he scrambled to make it look like nothing had happened. This second storyline matters because it shows a pattern running through this entire family: everybody is hiding something, and everybody's children are left to pay the emotional price for it. Whether it is a father hiding business documents or a mother hiding the identity of a child's real father, the result is the same: a younger generation left feeling manipulated, lied to, and desperate for control over lives that older relatives keep steering behind their backs. Layered on top of all of this is the ongoing tension around a wedding that keeps getting delayed by one crisis after another. Every time this family seems close to celebrating something joyful, another secret comes crawling out of the woodwork and derails everything. It is almost comedic at this point, if it weren't so heartbreaking, watching a couple try to hold on to their happy ending while everyone around them keeps setting off emotional landmines. There was even a heartfelt promise exchanged earlier in the storyline, one partner asking the other to stay by their side no matter what troubles come, a promise that is now being tested in the most brutal way imaginable, as one half of that couple sits at the center of a public identity crisis and a physical altercation with his own brother. And let's not forget the older generation in all of this, because the parents and in-laws involved are not innocent bystanders either. There have been meetings, arguments, attempts at reconciliation that fall apart before they even properly begin, and at least one storyline involving a wife who has had enough of being disrespected in her own marriage, packing up and stepping away to get some breathing room from a husband she feels has failed to defend her. Even that relationship, watching a father figure fail to stand up for the people who need him most, feeds directly into why the younger members of this family feel so alone, so unsupported, and so quick to reach a boiling point the moment something goes wrong. So when you put it all together, today's explosion between Zwelakhe and his brother isn't really about one single moment. It's the culmination of months of silence, avoidance, and half-truths finally erupting because nobody in this family knows how to sit down and have an honest conversation before things spiral out of control. Zwelakhe didn't wake up this morning planning to fight his brother. He was pushed there, slowly, painfully, by every single person who chose comfort over honesty when honesty was what he needed most. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will the family finally sit down and have the real conversation they've been avoiding, or will pride keep everyone locked in their corners while the damage keeps piling up? Will Zwelakhe find peace with whoever his real father turns out to be, or will this newly discovered bloodline bring even more complications into an already overwhelming situation? And what about that wedding everyone keeps hoping will finally happen? Will love manage to survive one more round of family chaos, or is this the crisis that finally breaks it for good? One thing is certain, this family cannot keep running from the truth forever. Every secret buried in this storyline has come back around eventually, and the fallout keeps getting bigger each time. Today it was a physical fight between two brothers who used to stand shoulder to shoulder. Next time, who knows what the consequences will be if nobody steps up to finally deal with these issues honestly instead of letting them fester in the shadows. That's where we're leaving things for today's episode. Let us know down in the comments what you think should happen next, whether you believe Zwelakhe was right to lose his temper the way he did, and who you think his real father might actually turn out to be. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next update, drop a like if you enjoyed this breakdown, and we will see you in the next review with everything you need to stay caught up on this rollercoaster of a family drama.